We are joined by CBCP Episcopal Commission and Public Affairs Executive Secretary, Father Jerome Secillano. Good morning, Father Jerome, and welcome back to Morning Matters.
Yes, good morning, Pauline.
All right, first of all, Father, what led the Church to take a stand on the flood control controversy? And can you walk us through why the CBCP felt the need to issue a statement regarding this?
Well, it's a very serious issue. Corruption is already endemic in our society. A lot of people are affected. And so therefore, as a church institution, I think we are deeply responsible also to make a stand against it.
Well, personally, Father, what struck me in this letter is that the bishops even admitted that the church itself has at times failed by remaining silent, but it is speaking up now. I mean, we do know there is the separation of church and state, but now we hear the church taking a stand on these controversies. How serious are the concerns of the church into these alleged misuse of public funds?
Well, we can't even invoke the doctrine of separation of church and state in this issue because corruption is an issue that affects us all. And so therefore, as a church, we are deeply responsible also in, number one, making those involved in corruption accountable, and also to denounce corruption because corruption is evil. That's why when you ask me about how concerned are we are deeply concerned, really, because it is not only us as a church that's affected. Even ordinary Filipinos are affected by it. When we see flooding everywhere, it's the ordinary and poor Filipinos who are very much affected by it. And it's also a form of injustice. And, injustice should not have a place in our society. So the church is making a stand now. The church is using her voice in order to make these people who are involved in corruption practices indeed be wary that we are looking at them, we are observing them, and that we are angry about what they are doing right now.
And Father, the pastoral letter did shame and did say that shame and accountability should not stop with contractors, but it should also extend to legislators, engineers, auditors, and even political patrons. I mean, how do you see their role in perpetuating this racket and this anatomy of corruption, so to speak? And do you think that we're being led astray to the real culprits of this injustice, so to speak, Father?
No, we are not being led astray because even investigations show that these are the people who are very much involved in these corrupt practices. Contractors cannot do it alone. There will always be the political component of it. Meaning to say the politicians are there. They're the ones financing the projects. And so it's a web actually of corruption. So we see contractors, we see agencies, we see politicians, and we should make them also accountable and not only single out all these contractors that are being named, in the investigations.
But Father, what do you think about the hearings, the congressional hearings? Are you satisfied with how they are being conducted? Because the bishops also raised doubts on the credibility of this investigation being conducted by Congress. I mean, in your view, can they truly be impartial if their colleagues, fellow lawmakers, are possibly implicated in this?
Impartiality will always be a question. Because in the first place, when you investigate contractors without investigating the politicians who are allegedly involved in it, of course, it's not going to be impartial. So we see already that there are sacred cows in the investigation. But then for the lawmakers to really prove to the public that they are serious in weeding out corruption, that they are also serious in making those involved in corruption accountable, so they should investigate everyone.
And Father, the letter also did say that the CBCP supports the creation of an independent committee to probe these anomalies. In your opinion, who should be leading this investigation and who should compose this committee, this commission, in order to ensure credibility?
Well, when we speak of impartiality and then emphasizing also the credibility of particular commission, I think it should not only be composed of politicians, it should also be composed of some civil society groups and maybe some experts. So these are the type of people who should be included if we really wish to have an impartial investigation of the matter.
And Father, will the CBCP also emphasize that it's not just punishment, but restitution is also needed, that these stolen funds must be returned to the people? Realistically, Father, is that even possible? How realistic is that call?
Well, it is a doctrine in the church that for you to be forgiven, especially from the sin of stealing, you have to really return the things or the money that you stole. So it is just an emphasis that the church would like to do, because that is the reality that we live in. So, but then again, if you're asking me about if it is realistic, I don't know. But then again, it must be done. It must be done because if these money are spent not for the projects and not to benefit the poor or the simple people among us, then it's really a form of injustice that continues to be committed. So therefore, if there will be investigations, the investigations that will point to the culprits should also tell these culprits to return the money. Just like, for example, what they did to some senators. When they were investigated for plunder, during the time of Napoles, then they were also ordered to return the money that they pocketed. So that's a form of retribution or a return of what they stole from the public.
And Father, speaking of retribution, what do you think is the most fitting punishment for this kind of injustice? Stealing funds, that brazen act of crime, of misusing these funds for projects that are ghost or even substandard?
I don't have something in mind. Maybe imprisonment. So whatever the laws say, then perhaps they could just simply follow the law. So if there is a provision for them to be imprisoned for life, then they should just apply the law. That's it.
And Father, from the church's perspective, what do you think are the lessons that leaders and citizens, ordinary citizens, should learn from this controversy, from this discussion? I mean, given the history of failed anti-corruption initiatives in the past, how can the public also be assured that this call won't just be another, what we call just a paper reform?
Well, number one, there should be sustained pressure coming from the public. When this issue came up, the public really rose up in anger. And they were really condemning this evil practice. So without the condemnation of the public, without the pressure from the public, these culprits would just think that what they're doing is right. But now that the public is well aware of what happened, and now that they are angry, and you see, parang sa Tagalog yun, nagkakanda kumahog sila ngayon sa kanilang mga investigations. So I think that's number one. And of course, number two is the public should be vigilant and not be quiet. When the CBCP said that sometimes we also feel guilty because we have been quiet in the past. So I think when we see malpractices in the government, like corrupt practices in the government, then we have to speak up. We don't need to just keep a blind eye. We have to really raise our voice, our concerns. Because without those concerns, without the voices that come from us denouncing malpractices or evil practices, then these things will just continue to be done by those evil in the government.
That's right, because in the pastoral letter also, Father, the CBCP did encourage Filipinos, especially the youth, to use digital platforms for vigilance and truth-telling. How important are digital platforms now, Father, in sustaining this pressure for our local officials, government officials?
Well, I think if we can post just anything in social media, and why can't we also post messages of denunciation about these corrupt practices? So it's just as simple as being involved, being knowledgeable about what's happening, and then express our disgust and anger. So the social media is just merely a platform given to us that we should now use to our advantage. So it's all about knowing the facts and then denouncing these corrupt practices and then expressing our disgust and anger. And I think when we do that, that's a form of making these people be aware, and that's also a way of making them accountable for what they did.
And lastly, Father, what message does the Church have for lawmakers who are investigating these flood control anomalies? And also, what is your message to those in power who may be directly implicated in this controversy?
Well, I think the CBCP pastoral letter says it all, that we should live simply, that we should not live in excess, that we should not be greedy, and that for those in the positions of power, that they should really exercise a form of service. And then, of course, for those of us in the public, that we should continue to exercise our God-given right to put an end to evil practices, not only in the government, but even the church. It was said in the pastoral letter that even in the church, there may be corruption and there may be some sort of abuses. And so we ourselves are reminded that we should live simply and always in accord with, the will of the Lord.
All right. Well, we thank you for speaking to us this morning. That was CBCP Episcopal Commission on Public Affairs Executive Secretary, Father Jerome Secillano. Thank you, Father.